Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA with Ignite. Today I've got Stephen Hardy with me today, and we're going to be talking about burnout. What is it? How we can prevent it? How we can see the signs of it occurring? Stephen, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so I have a website, so www.navigatethecurve.com, and you can also find me on my LinkedIn profile. So just Stephen Hardy, you'll spot me on there. So whichever way you want to contact me is absolutely fine by me.
So you have an interesting background, which is that you've actually worked for some major business to business companies, and now you're a burnout expert. So how did you make the jump, or what inspired you to make the jump?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. It's not a natural step, is it, really, from software sales to burnout expert? But like many people, I fell into sales. I'd been traveling in Australia, and I was just really keen to get a career in anything. And I went to a recruitment day and ended up working for a software startup. And that was the kind of start of the process. 20 years later, I found myself still working in the software world, earning good money and navigating the ups and downs, the highs and the lows of the sales industry. And like many people, I find myself struggling with the signs of burnout, anxiety, just feeling a little bit flat, a little bit on edge, just unable to connect well with my friends and my family, being a bit irritable, losing my sense of purpose a little bit, and just knowing that I was missing something in life. And I think that was an accumulation of 20 years of stress just piling up. And many people can see that as being a bit of a par for the course when you're working in sales. But I've always been interested in mental health and personal development and how the mind works. And I'd been doing a bit of background work and been on various different courses and trained in different things. And I was acting as a bit of a coach for myself, actually, but also for some of my friends and family. And I found out that I was quite good at it. I like helping people. I like working with people, and I get a lot from it myself.
So,
So yeah, just after that, I decided that it was something that I wanted to investigate further.
so what is burnout? Because it's talked about a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And more so these days, it seems like it's everywhere on LinkedIn. And I think people have a different perspective on burnout. Sometimes it's thought of as being an element of depression, anxiety. And I think those things come into play with burnout. And I think, it can be a label that can be attached to many different kind of mild to moderate mental health issues. For me, burnout is where you feel mentally exhausted, and I talk about burnout in terms of it's a result of not closing the stress loop. So if we think about what happens when we get stressed, we all get stressed to a level. I felt an element of stress when I come on a podcast, and that's good because it gets me thinking it rather than just slouching my chair, just not being mentally sharp. It gets me thinking a bit clearer. And that's good to get a bit of stress. It gets us out of bed in the morning. It gets us moving. It gets us to the train station on time. It pushes us forward in life. But the problem is when we're getting more and more stress in our life, and that's happening. We're in this always on environment where we're just getting hammered from all angles with email and LinkedIn and everything. Listening to the news at night, all of these appalling things happening in the world, and the world's just getting faster and faster. So we're just getting more and more stress in our lives, and part of our brains wasn't designed to cope with this level of stress. So we have a mechanism, kind of, I can simplify it as an area of our brain, which I call the primitive part of our brain, and it's designed to be triggered in short bursts, irregularly. Maybe once, twice a day, and
Because the thing about the brain is it takes up so much energy, doesn't it?
It does. It takes up a huge. People don't realize that it takes up a huge amount of energy. It's a really good point. So our part of our brain's designed to be triggered in short bursts, and you can kind of think about watching a David Attenborough program. You see a wild animal being chased by a leopard or something, and it's suddenly its heart's racing. It's breathing deeply, and it's racing away trying to escape. and then it manages to escape, hopefully. And the next minute it's just chomping away on grass. It's closed off that stress loop. So the stress hormones have been released into its body. The adrenaline, cortisol's got it moving, got it racing around. It's escaped. It's run off those stress hormones, and then it's closed that loop. It's just back to normal. But we're not doing that in our lives. We're getting triggered time and time again, by these metaphorical leopards chasing us, or it's our manager or a client or a email or whatever. But we're not closing off the stress loop because we're not in that world. So it's just piling up and piling up. And then we get to a point where we become so overwhelmed by stress. Sometimes we don't even realize it because it just edges up, bit by bit. And that's when anxiety starts to kick in. We start to overthink, which we're not seeing things rationally. Our subconscious mind's taken over on autopilot, running away metaphorically from that leopard. And it's exhausting. And our brain just over time just becomes exhausted. We become cynical. Our brain just becomes fuzzy. We can't think straight. We can't make decisions. I have clients who just, one of my clients was saying he went out for dinner. He was planning to go out for dinner with his wife the other night. It's a one-off to relax. And his wife said, "Where do you want to go?" And he said, "I honestly can't think." And this is a senior exec working in the city. Just couldn't think straight. So yeah, that's my definition of burnout. And I think it's something that we need to be more and more aware of, because many people are on the cusp of burnout, and the important thing is to get help, or to work on that before you go over the edge, because it can take a long time to recover from burnout.
Yeah. So, how can you spot the symptoms of burnout?
Hmm. Some of the symptoms that I mentioned before, feeling tired, losing your mojo, if you like, just losing the motivation, losing a sense of hope. I remember being in my 20s, starting in, specifically remember Dell, actually. Dell at the time was an amazing place to work. And I was in my 20s, I was cutting deals, I was working ridiculous hours, and I was going in at weekends booking my orders. We used to get the orders through the fax machine, and I was having to book them on the system. So I was working ridiculous hours, but I was full of energy because I was so passionate about it, I was enjoying it so much, because um, I saw this future ahead of me of, being able to buy a house, and being able to work my way up the career ladder, and, earning good money,
Yeah.
all of these exciting things on the horizon. But when you start to look into your future and you just see another quarter, and you start to think cynically, like, I'm 46 now, and some people in my industry, when they get close to 50, they start saying things like, "Well, I don't like my job, but I can't move jobs because I'm not going to get another job because I'm over 50 in software sales, and people don't want to recruit me." And that's quite a cynical perspective on the world. Um, so that kind of cynicism, that brain fuzz is another one, just not being able to think clearly, overthinking, negatively forecasting, these kind of things are all symptoms of burnout.
So what's the difference between burnout and mental fitness?
Yeah, so mental fitness, in some ways, is kind of the opposite of burnout, I
Right.
guess. Mental fitness, no one's ever going to be in a state where they feel amazing all the time. That's just reserved for LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
no one ever feels like that, even if you work in a role where you're thinking about it all the time, like I am. Things happen in life. The proverbial hits the fan. You don't know what's around the corner. We have bad days. I have a 2-year-old son who keeps me awake at night sometimes, and I have a bad night's sleep, and I feel bad in the morning. But it's about being able to bounce back from that quickly, and it's about feeling good more often than feeling bad. Now, when we're working in the what I call the intellectual part of the brain, we'll generally be more rational. We'll think positively. We'll think creatively, and we'll be able to make clearer decisions. We won't look for the worst case scenario. We'll be generally quite optimistic. So when you're in that part of the brain, you're generally what I would class as being mentally fit. You'll bounce back um, from adversity quite quickly.
And is that the same as resilience?
Yeah, I'd say, everyone's got different definitions on things, but I'd classify that as being resilient. Resilience is not being able to stand there when, bullets bounce off you and just ignoring everything and not being phased by anything, because that's just not human. Resilience is the ability to be able to get knocked down and be able to get back up on your feet within a reasonable period of time. That's what I would say resilience was anyway.
So what can we do if we're spotting the signs of burnout?
Mhm.
What is it that we can do to, apart from probably getting a good night's sleep?
Yeah.
What is it that we could be doing?
Yeah. Well, just spotting the signs already is an important thing, because many people get through their entire career and they don't recognize the signs. They creep up on them, and retirement in itself can be a major trigger for almost like a breakdown ultimately if you don't recognize that. But recognizing that and then noticing the importance of addressing it. So we're all busy, we all have priorities in life, but ultimately if you become burnout, you're going to lose a few years of your career where you're not effective, or you have to take time out. So remind yourself of that and prioritize your mental health. So with that in mind, what you can do, you mentioned a super important one: sleep. Sleep is so important, because when we sleep at night, we don't just physically rest, we mentally rest, but also we process stress. I don't know whether many people know that, but during REM sleep, rapid eye movement, we actually process negative thoughts and the stresses of the day, and that's what happens when we're dreaming. So that enables us to wake up the next morning and kind of empty what I call a stress bucket. Exercise, really important, massively underrated. Sorry, just you don't have to be a triathlete. You don't have to be in some super competitive sport. You just have to get out there and move. Go for a walk in the. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Mm.
I don't know about you, but maybe it is a scientific thing that I seem to get like build up of adrenaline,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
a- and the only way that I can get rid of it is by doing some exercise.
100%. Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's that process of doing the exercise and getting the sleep that
Yeah.
I find that, for example, if I speak on a stage, I get a massive shot of adrenaline, which
Mhm.
unsurprisingly, and the best way to get over that is to sleep and to go out for a run.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you think about the lives that we were designed for, both physically and mentally, we were designed for completely different lives to the lives that we live. We were designed to be like, think about our primitive ancestors are running around, hunting,
Mm.
gathering food, working as a collective out in the open, doing a lot of physical exercise. And that helped to release serotonin, and serotonin is the positive neurotransmitter, which helps us feel more in control and more relaxed, and helps us better deal with stress, anxiety, and makes us feel braver and deal with a whole load of different things. So we're designed to be active. We're not designed to be sat in front of a screen typing away and getting hit from all angles with every single media possible. So we have to account for that. By all means, work in stressful corporate jobs. It's an exciting life, but factor in the fact that you're going to need to do those things to counterbalance it. You're going to need to exercise. Going to need to get out and about, connect with other people, all of these good things which help you, and sleep as well.
So what else can we do apart from sleep?
So sleeping, I mentioned exercise.
Yeah.
Another amazing one is feeling like you're part of a community. So positive interactions, interacting with people, connecting with people, helping people, um, having those relationships, those real, authentic, genuine relationships where you know that people will depend on you and vice versa. We don't often have those in the corporate world. We have very good relationships with some. I met some incredible people in the workplace, but because of the nature of what you're doing, everyone's focusing on their individual roles and their personal priorities. We don't get that opportunity to connect at such a deep level. So some kind of club, community,
Yeah.
hobby, something like that. Yeah.
So you kind of need to go and play darts or table tennis or
Yes, all of these
pickleball or
things.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever your hobby is, it's a great way to switch off. So many people make their hobbies about work. It's it's golf with clients, or it's going for beers after work with colleagues, which are great to do, but it's not necessarily, you're not getting the full benefit.
So, why does it take so long to recover from burnout?
Um, uh, it's a good question. So I think it's just the sheer level of exhaustion is one thing. The other thing is you've created an habitual way of being. So if I think about myself, it probably took me a couple of years
Mm.
to recover from burnout. And um, I remember when I first took some time out from burnout, I thought, okay, this is my plan. I'm a highly driven salesperson, so I'm going to create a plan for burnout. I'm going to be very competitive, and I'm going to take this head on. But right, my plan is 1 week relaxing, second week start a new hobby. So that hobby was jujitsu, tennis. Third week, I'm going to start writing a blog. So I started doing all of these things, which were quite kind of worky related kind of things. The reality is what you need to do is just rest.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do that when you're a very driven person. It's really hard to get out of that mindset. It takes a long time. I remember looking back after a year and thinking, I've, it's been a year. I've wasted a year of doing hardly anything. I look back at what I'd achieved. It was huge. So it's just getting out of that driven um, way of being, I think.
Yeah, I remember going on. I remember going on holidays, especially in my 20s. I was
Mhm.
working very long hours, and probably in my early 30s. And I remember going on holiday and just sleeping.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I remember being in a situation where I went with my partner at the time, and we were looking. She was looking at shoes in John Lewis,
Yeah.
and I just fell asleep in the chair.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, there's you always get the chairs with the men sit, which is
Yes.
and I just sat there and fell asleep.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, if you look at it, at quarter end, everyone gets ill in sales. Everyone gets,
Yeah.
sore throats, flu, colds, and this is when the adrenaline drops off, and your body just says, "Right now, I need to relax," and succumbs to these viruses. And
Especially at the end, at the last, sorry, the first 2 weeks of Q1,
yeah, it's quite
where I
awful.
worked, everybody
Yeah.
went on holiday
Yes. Yeah.
and probably just slept.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and your body just takes over, and your mind takes over. Says, right, I'm shutting things down now. We need this.
So we got 2 minutes left. Give us
Mm,
have you got some examples of people that you've actually coached yourself in terms of burnout?
yeah. Yeah, so many. A lot of people come to me with burnout. A lot of people come to me with imposter syndrome. They're the two biggest ones. So I mentioned a client working in the city who was just working. He kept using the phrase to me. He was saying that he feels like he's had two careers already in his life, and he was similar age to me, kind of mid to late 40s. He was feeling exhausted, struggling to make decisions, and it was really affecting his. He's managing quite a big team, having to make some quite big decisions. So he's struggling in both of his personal and his corporate life. And he'd felt he didn't realize this at the time, but he'd stopped recognizing the fact that he had choices in life. So he thought he was stuck in this role where he just couldn't get out of. He big mortgage to pay, all that kind of stuff, and that he wasn't going to be able to go elsewhere. And then he came through all of that, and he realized he had options. He interviewed for another place, and then he realized that he didn't actually want to move jobs. It wasn't the job itself; it was how he was being. And once he became, improved his mental fitness, everything just became easier in the role as it was. Ended up being a champion actually for mental health within his organization.
Mm.
Um, it should be your natural state. Mental fitness should be your natural state. It's not that people are broken. It's the strange modern environment that we place ourselves in. We just need to work at our mental health because we're in an unnatural environment that part of our brain wasn't designed to be in.
Yes, and I mean, for me, it's about getting the sleep.
Yeah. Yes.
Sleep. Well, I guess sleep, exercise, and eating well are kind of for
Yes.
me the three
Yeah.
things. Because I know if I eat rubbish, I don't sleep enough.
Yeah.
I haven't drunk alcohol for 15 years, so
Excellent. Yeah.
that was something else where if I drank alcohol, I didn't sleep, or didn't. You don't get the REM sleep,
Yeah. Yes.
which was always you wake up in the morning and you just still be tired.
Yeah. 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 A lot of clients quit alcohol. I mean, I don't push them to do that. It's, but they just make that decision themselves, and it really does help with sleep.
Mm.
Yeah.
Stephen, thank you so much for coming on and talking
Thank
about
you, Tim. Yeah, it's
burnout.
been
I
a
really
pleasure.
appreciate it. It's a fascinating subject. I think it's something that that many people have had, and I suspect I had it as well in my 20s. So we just called it laziness or something back, 30
Yeah,
years
it's a
ago.
shame. Yeah.
Which was a shame. And luckily, people are actually able to recognise it and do something about it. And thank you for your advice. Where can people find you?
So my website, www.navigatethecurve.com, or my LinkedIn profile, Stephen Hardy. Um, can't remember the rest of the title on LinkedIn, but you'll find me on LinkedIn. Either or is absolutely fine. Just ping me a message. Always happy to have a virtual